Honestly, I don't remember the last time I changed the vignetting. Oh, the sun, it's blinding me. A lot of photography, honestly, comes down to preference. Hey everyone, my name is Emma Berman. I've been a wedding photographer for the last 7 years, and today I'm gonna show you how to edit a portrait in Lightroom. We're gonna go through the different panels in the Develop module, and I'm gonna show you how to create a look that is both very professional and very natural. The first thing you want to do with every photo you ever edit is you want to make sure you've got your exposure right. If a photo is too dark or too bright, everything else is going to be slightly skewed. You want to make sure you're starting off on the right foot. Your exposure is the foundation of your home. You want to make sure you got a good foundation. So, looking at this, I raised it up ever so slightly here. Now this is a very dramatic photo, so you will see me leaning a little bit into that. I want it to feel dramatic. I want it to feel high fashion editorial. Okay, so then the next thing you want to look at is white balance, which is very important. You can always hit auto for white balance, see what it gives you. Sometimes it's really accurate. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it thinks that it's trying to edit the first Twilight movie. All that to say, you can try out the auto feature, and sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not. Looking at it here, honestly, I feel like it nailed it. It looks really good to me. There's a button on your keyboard below the delete or backspace button. It's a backslash. You can hit that to toggle between your before and after. So this way I can see what it looks like with the few edits I've made so far, which is just exposure and white balance. So before, after. It looks a little bit greener than I think I would want it to. So I'm gonna leave that back at 6, which is what it was originally. And I might even mess around with bringing that white balance up to 5-ish. Okay, let's toggle again. That feels good. Okay, and then down here, the next thing is highlights, shadows, whites, and blacks. I like to create a look that is a little bit softer. I don't like it to look too punchy, too contrasty. I like a bit of a softened image. So I like to adjust these sliders to make it a little bit softer, which means pulling up the blacks, bringing down the whites a little bit. It's kind of dark. I might mask the hair later because it's in shadow at this bottom part here. I might mask it later and just raise this up a little bit because I feel like if I were to adjust the shadows right now to make that bit of hair brighter, it just screws up the rest of the image too much. So that's the fun part about Lightroom, is it's got all these Photoshop type features now that make so many things possible. One of the things is if your highlights are up way too much, you lose a lot of detail. If you bring it down too much, it starts to look kind of flat and unrealistic. I like to bring them down a little bit so that it's not so that we're keeping all the detail a lot more, but I don't want to bring it down too much and make it a super flat looking image. I like to bring texture and clarity down just a smidge each, just to, again, go for a bit of a softer look in the image. So I'm just going to bump each of those down a teensy bit. Already I feel like this is looking really good. I mean, come on. I'm loving this. This is just an awesome photo. Shout out to the model. So good. Down here in our tone curve panel, I like to mess with the highlights, lights, darks, and shadows here. So let's start with highlights. Now this is interesting. Notice what it looks like when it's all the way to the right versus all the way to the left. I personally prefer a little bit more to the right. I feel like to the left, it starts to look just way too overly edited and like weirdly muted in a way. I don't know. But I don't want to go too far to the right and make it glow. Especially if you don't know what a certain setting does in Lightroom, don't be afraid to mess with it. Just change it, see what it looks like. Don't look at it and be like, I don't know what that is, therefore I can't do anything with it ever. Nah, this is your playground. I am probably not gonna do too much with this slider. I think I kind of like the middle ground for that one. Okay, darks. If I bring shadows down, that's not a look that I love. If you ever need to reset your slider to 0, you can double click the slider or double click the title next to it. So for this one, say I hit that, go over to shadows, double click. Same thing with the slider itself, double click, back to 0. I'm not gonna bring darks down too much, honestly, probably just teensy weensy little bit. And then let's go into our curve here. I might raise the entire image up a teeny bit. Let's see. Because again, I'm going for a bit of a dramatic look with this one to fit the style we are going for. If you were to pull up this this end of the curve here, the down in the shadows, if you pull it up all the way, see how it just flattens out that image in a way? So sometimes I like to pull my sliders or whatever I'm adjusting, I like to make it extreme at first, just so I know for sure what it is that I'm affecting. So for this, I know if I go way up here, it's doing that. So it gives me an idea of what this does, which can be really helpful because sometimes if you just pull it up a few little notches, you might not actually know what it is that you're doing if you haven't used that certain tool before. I pull it up really far, go, oh, that's what that does. Okay. Also notice how me adjusting this is adjusting it's impacting the histogram. So notice how adjusting this tone curve here is impacting the histogram, which means that you are genuinely impacting the overall exposure, the highlights, the shadows and everything in the image. So something you can do is go up to this little eye icon, and if you hold it down, it'll show you what the edit looked like without any of those particular settings applied to it. So without the tone curve, with the tone curve, without it, with it. I actually honestly am liking the before a little more. I'm just gonna undo that S curve there. Let's see before and after again, just see what we fine-tuned here. This is feeling very good. Okay. Down in our color mixer here, you've got HSL, which is for hue, saturation, luminance. This is where you could really mess with skin tones if you want to just impact it without going into an actual like brush adjustment or something like that. So orange pretty much is typically what is going to control your skin tones. A little bit of red, a little bit of yellow, that will impact as well, but orange would be the one that most impacts skin tones. So looking at her skin here, honestly, it's quite accurate to what it looks like in real life. Like it doesn't look too red or too yellow. It's right in that natural area for her. I might bring the luminance down a slight bit because with the sun hitting her that strong, it does create a bit of like, I don't know, a bounce, like a bright look effect. So I might watch what happens if I bring it down really far, just so you understand what's happening here. Bring it up really far. It's like, whoa, she's glowing. But I might bring it down just ever so slightly to help with a bit of that reflective bright sun on her skin. And then you can mess with the sliders. You can make her an Oompa Loompa, or you can make her a Smurf, you know, whatever suits your fancy, tickles your fancy. I might bump it up just a little bit because, to be honest, in particular, I remember this model being very excited and proud of she put a lot of work into the prep that she did, which included some tanning. So I know that looking nice and tan meant a lot to her. So I like to honor that in a way, in the most natural way possible. I want to emphasize that tan for her. So just bumped up the saturation, not by much. I only pulled it up by 4. But it's just to make sure that we've got that warmth in her skin that she worked so hard for. Hue, this is where you can change that skin tone if you need to, or if you've got like some greens in the background that for some reason were just looking extremely yellow that day and you're like, I want those greens to have a little bit more blue in them. You can pull it that direction. Pretty much any color that you're like, I need it to be slightly different than it is. For some reason, the way that the photo was captured, it made that blue look way more teal than it actually was. So I'm going to adjust that slider to make it more true to how it really was. So this is where you can mess with all of that. This is a photo that does not have a ton of different colors, which is honestly part of what makes me love it so much. I feel like some of the most impactful photography, it's the photos that are uncomplicated. There's a very clear subject. You have like no more than like 3 different colors in it. It's just very pleasing to the eye, in my opinion. But if you are messing with a photo that has a lot of different colors in it, the HSL panel comes really in handy. One thing to keep in mind with the HSL slider panel here is if you want to adjust skin tones and you go to mess with oranges, if anybody's wearing orange, you're also impacting that outfit. Let's go down to color grading. I remember when this showed up in a Lightroom update, I was like, what? We're getting a video thing here? This is awesome, color grading. And this has really come in handy, especially for people who are trying to achieve like specific looks, like say a film look. It's nice to be able to bring like a bit of a tealish look into your shadows or something. Like it really allows you to get creative, and it's just honestly a lot of fun to mess with and very handy. If I wanted this to have a bit more of like a film look, I might, leave it in this bluish green kind of area and add a little bit of saturation there. Now I'm going to go up to the eye icon there and see what it looks like without and then with. It's very minor, but I really enjoy that. I don't want to be too much of that because I'm not going for too much of a film look here, but a little blues in the shadows, in my opinion, it just adds a little bit of a classy, professional look. Honestly, I usually don't like to do much with midtones. It affects so much of the image, and I'm not looking to paint over my image, so I usually try to avoid that. Highlights, I will only change if I'm noticing that the highlights seem excessively blue or excessively magenta or something, and it's not something I can fix in the white balance slider up above in the basic panel. That's pretty much the only time I try to do that. Or if I have a photo that I'm like, you know what, this photo was taken in the desert and I really want that to come across that it was desert, but I don't want to bring my white balance way, way, way warm. I want it to be a little more subtle. Maybe I go into highlights and I go into the orangish area and I bring in a bit of saturation there just to add warmth, but in a different way. There are a lot of different ways to achieve a look in Lightroom. And it's kind of fun how you can go about it in so many different ways. And again, that's where just experimenting and getting into the settings of Lightroom and seeing what it has to offer and what it can do, it will only come in handy. Noise reduction. This would be handy for like a low lighting situation where you maybe had to bump your ISO a bit more, you forgot your flash, it's dark, maybe then you're like, okay, this is looking really grainy, really rough, so let's bump up that luminance. Luminance can also be really nice just for a bit of a smoothing effect. So if we are going for a bit more of a polished look here, a little bit more smooth, maybe kind of a photoshopped look without it being too obvious, you could bring that luminance up quite a bit and see the impact that it makes. Honestly, it's so subtle, I can't even tell what it's doing right now. Is that just me? You guys have to let me know if you see it doing anything. I can't even tell it's doing anything there. Sharpening. Sharpening, I literally have only ever messed with sharpening one time when I had a lens that was on the fritz. It was a lens that was starting to have some like fuzzy focusing issues and it like had this weird blooming effect. And so for any of the photos I had taken with that lens, I bumped up sharpening to see how it like really, really defines an image, which if you've got the issues that I was having with the lens, that can be really handy. Otherwise, I've never felt the need to mess with it. Lens corrections, I like to leave it as it is. It automatically selects the lens that I was using and the Canon camera and everything, or if you're Nikon or Sony or Fujifilm, whatever. And then down here you've got distortion and vignetting. Distortion, I usually don't find any need to change because it'll automatically adjust it based on the lens that you're using. Honestly, I don't remember the last time I changed the vignetting. I know you can mess with it a bit to create a certain look, but I personally don't like a vignette too much. You can do it really subtle and it can look really good. A lot of photography, honestly, comes down to preference. It's like that, the Picasso quote of learn the rules like a pro so you can break them like an artist. That's, I feel like, very applicable to editing a portrait in Lightroom. Down here, I do like to add a little bit of grain because I am a fan of film photos and just making things look as natural as possible. So I do like a little bit of grain. I'll usually put in about 20, maybe 15. I'm weird, and for my black and white photos, I usually put like 40 or 50 for the grain because I want those to really feel like film. Again, personal preference. And then we've got these different colors here, including shadows. So I might, if I was going for a more film look, I might bring my shadows more into the greens because to me that just screams film. And then maybe you're in a place where there's just trees and bushes everywhere and everything has a bit of a greenish cast to it. Maybe I bring the shadows more in the magenta to try to cancel it out. Makeup artists will know all about this, like about canceling out certain colors. So if you've got, like me, I've usually got like bright red cheeks going on. And so if I put like a green something on my face, that would kind of help counteract it. Now I'm going to go back up to the very top here because I'm going to show you the final step, the Photoshop-ish step of the process. Now this is where we get a little bit into like skin retouching, which she has gorgeous skin. You can see that she has gorgeous skin, and there are little like, normal skin things going on, little bumps and divots and stuff. And you won't see that stuff in magazines because everybody does the skin retouching. But I just want to make sure that it's known that this is not Like, I hope that nobody ever feels like they have to edit this stuff, or that it's not, that they're not beautiful. You're beautiful. I honestly try to avoid skin retouching as much as possible. I think it does create unrealistic expectations a lot of times, especially when it's overdone. So I like to keep things really natural, which means we have two options here. One, when we're creating a mask for this, I could select the person and I could select her facial skin, and it will just select all her facial skin to the best of its ability. It didn't really do a great job here. It's a little messy, but I could select all her facial skin and adjust the like clarity and texture and everything. But because I want this to look really natural, I'm going to select brush. I'm not going to do all of her face. I just want a very specific area, because I think that if I were to do the entire face, it would make it more unnatural. So I am going to select here, maybe up a bit, and there, and I'm going to leave, honestly, I'm going to leave everything else alone, the nose, the upper lip, all that stuff. Okay, now I'm going to toggle off that so I can see what I'm doing here. Come on down to texture and clarity, and then there's also like sharpness, which can be really helpful. So like if I went like this, it's like, oh, HDR. Okay, I go like this, is like blurry and weird. Okay, so maybe not sharpness on this one, but texture, let's bring it down. Let's say negative 25-ish, and then same thing for clarity. Softens it a bit. Let's toggle this on and off and see how we're looking. Before, after, before, after. So it just softens a little bit without making it look unrealistic. Now, let's say you have a big ol' zit you're trying to get rid of or something. Like, I think this is a mole, but let's pretend it's a zit for a second. I go into the remove tool here, and you have the option for remove, heal, or clone stamp. If you go to just the remove, Lightroom now has this amazing thing that used to just be in Photoshop, which is the generative AI option. I don't know if everyone's says early access or if I am special, but if I'm not special, don't tell me, because this is good for me. I have generative AI selected, which you have to have internet to be able to use this, by the way. So now I am going to select the mole that we're pretending is a zit, hit apply. And depending on how much you selected, it will take a certain amount of time. If you only select one thing, one small area, it should go pretty quick like it just did. And look at that. And it gives us 3 options for what to choose. So I'm toggling through right now. 2, 3. I like the first one best. And so then I just go back to my regular panel here, and it shows you how it just totally got rid of that. I'm going to toggle between before and after. Before, after. If you wanted to get nitpicky, honestly, you could go through and like anything that is a slightly different color or whatever you could get rid of. Or like, I think this is an old piercing mark there. Maybe I want to get rid of the smile line, which is heartbreaking because we love smile lines. But if you wanted to get a bit more extreme and nitpicky, you could go in and do that, and see how it's taking a little bit longer than the previous one because there are multiple spots selected. It's kind of up to you how intense you want to get with that, personal preference. I don't want my clients to come to me and feel like this is the girl we go to who will make us look like we're somebody else. It's like, no, I want them to come to me and know that they're going to look like themselves and the best version of themselves, you know? But they're going to look like them, and I'm not going to change a whole lot. I'll help you out with your zits and stuff. Looking really good. So then I'm going to zoom out here. Look at what we did, guys. No preset, nothing, just, well, bam. It feels slightly blue right now to me, so I might warm it a little bit, especially because the whole point of the image is she's like, oh, the sun, it's blinding me. So I want to make sure warmth does come across to a certain degree. Gosh dang, you guys, I'm really liking this. I do feel like it still has a bit too much blue in it, so I might go back to shadows, and instead of blue, I might bring it over to orange for this one and see what that does. I feel like that just nailed what I wanted. Yeah, so normally I do like those blues in the shadows, but for this one, it was just not working for me. Last thing I do want to show you guys is I talked about how we've lost the detail in the darks of her hair here. So I'm going to go over and we're going to experiment, see if it can do this. We're going to select people, and we're going to try to have it select just her hair. However, it is quite dark and there's a whole shadowy area there. I will be curious to see if it accurately selects just the hair. Not bad. Okay, I'm going to say create mask. And then I'm actually gonna go up to the minus sign here. I'm gonna subtract from mask with a brush. I am going to bring the flow down. Flow is how, like the strength of it. So if the flow is at 100% and you go and draw a line, it's there. If your flow is like at 50%, it's like a faded line. Because I'm more focused on the bottom portion of her hair, so I'm gonna come up here and get rid of a bit of the mask on the top part here, so that as I'm making adjustments, it's not doing as much to the top of her hair. It's focusing more on the bottom. So I might, yeah, see how it's just gradually taking some of it away? That's because of the flow. I can get really perfectionistic with this, so I have to, there it is. Not too much here. Let's try bringing up highlights. Yeah, what does it look like if I do white? That just it does too much. I want just the highlights here. And then let's see, contrast up a little bit, exposure, teensy bit. I don't want it to look unnatural, but I do want to see the hair a little bit more. I feel like I could actually bring it down a little bit more. It's okay that some of it is lost to shadow. That adds to the drama, yeah? That feels great. Honestly, I'm really loving what we're working with here. This is a really cool image, one that I'm very excited about. We got the drama, we got the colors we're liking. I feel like we have that kind of soft creaminess that we like. Yeah, I feel like the skin looks really good. Another thing I could go in and do if I was feeling nitpicky is I could go in and do a brush over just the shoulder here to get rid of any like texture if I wanted it to look a bit more smooth. Again, I am somebody who wants things to look realistic though, so I am gonna leave it as is. So that is how to edit a portrait in Lightroom. And honestly, I feel like I talked a lot, but that was just sort of dipping a toe in the pool there. There's so much you can learn about editing portraits in Lightroom, and I think the most important thing is to just never stop exploring in Lightroom, mess around with the different stuff and see what you can discover and realize what looks good, what works, what doesn't work, and find your personal artistic style. All right, that's it for me. See ya.